Hello and welcome to a solo episode of Automatic Mouth. Today I thought I would jump in here and record an episode of something that I find really interesting, and I'm going to tease out a few things around it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and some feedback and see what you think. So what I'm going to talk about is the Law of Requisite Variety. Previously, the episodes of Automatic Mouth we've been focusing for a little while on the presuppositions of NLP. This is presupposition 13 for those of you following along at home who have learned NLP in the past. However, the beautiful thing about these presuppositions is how universal they are and how you can apply them to everyday life, right? It's not specific to NLP. So the law of requisite variety, what it's saying is that the person with the most flexibility in their behavior will have control of the situation, okay? Now, what I want to tease out in regards to this is the different types of control that we can be talking about, because the word itself can often bring up negative connotations, kind of like manipulation and things like that. I want to talk about self-control and how that plays into controlling the situation that you might find yourself in or the environment that you're in. So the first one is emotional self-regulation. When we can step away from whatever's going on in the environment and the content that's being discussed, it allows us to have an emotional response rather than an emotional reaction. Because the emotional reaction is often more from a trigger. It's that fight or flight response. It's that first kind of hit that our inner takes. You know, when a wound has been poked or a belief is being questioned or our morals, something inside of us that makes up part of our identity is being threatened. And so that initial pushback is that survival instinct that is there in everyone, isn't it? However, that survival instinct doesn't always serve us the best in this sort of situation. Sometimes the best thing for us in order to have control of the situation is to take a pause and use that pause to regulate your emotions. Move past that initial reaction, that initial sort of gut punch that you might have felt. Move past it, dig deeper, and decide how you want to respond to that. And that puts you in control. So that brings me on to another thing I was going to discuss, which is mastering the pause. We so often do not give enough practice or importance to pausing. We've become that, fast food society, haven't we? We want everything quickly. And often in conversations, someone's talking, they may be halfway through a sentence or a story or something, and in our mind, we've already started forming our response, thinking about how the story ends. We're already off in our mind. And so therefore, we're not really present with what they're talking about. We're in our own mind thinking about stuff. And so our response can come really quickly, can't it? There's no pause. There's no time for reflection on the entirety of what's being said. The other good thing that can come from a pause, besides you being able to reflect fully on what's been talked about, the other really cool thing that it's a gift for the person who's talking for two reasons. One is that when someone says something to me and I pause and think about what they've said, for me, it's a sign of respect that I'm actually going to reflect and think about what you've said and then make my decision on how I'm going to respond. It's giving respect to the communication, to the language. And it's your respect. It's not about whether you respect that person or not. It's saying, I respect my intelligence, I respect language, I respect my emotions. I'm going to pause and actually have a little bit of a think of what you've said so that I can respond in a way that's most true to me. So that's one thing. There's respect that's built in that, and it's really good for building rapport. The other thing, though, is that it can be a bit of a gift of growth for the other person as well. Because if you're a person that's very used to quick conversations and answering quickly and not liking awkward silences, where there's plenty of people who don't like that, when someone pauses, it can be a knee-jerk reaction to say something, to fill in the gap. Oh, I've got to say something. Oh, they haven't understood me. I better repeat it. So you keep talking. Whereas when we pause, and we do it often, it can actually be a bit of a training ground for the other person to reflect on, well, what's the reason that you need to fill the gaps all the time? What's the reason that silence unsettles you? Like, what a great insight. What a great rabbit hole to go down in regards to your own beliefs and thoughts. Yeah, I love that. Anyway, sensory acuity is another one in regards to the law of requisite variety. When you can be flexible and use sensory acuity, so if you're sensing, if you can see that a person's skin color has changed depending on what you've said, or their body language is different, then you can be flexible and adjust to that. You know, we can be having a great conversation and then suddenly I say something and you sit back and cross your arms. I can be flexible and think, okay, I've touched a nerve there. Something about what I just said has maybe made that person feel like they have to protect themselves and create some distance. So it gives you the opportunity to be a little bit flexible and either change the subject or dig a bit deeper or change the way that you are discussing the subject. But still, your flexibility will actually put you in control of what's going on in that interaction. Really, really cool. Understanding triggers is just an amazing skill to have. And this is my belief now. To understand another person's triggers starts with truly understanding your own. It's my belief that our personal triggers are not for anyone else to, avoid or be careful of or, walk on eggshells around me. On any of my posts, I don't put, trigger warning or anything like that. A person's triggers, notifications, internal messages, notifications that there is something within them that is out of balance, that is unhealed and requires attention, not avoidance. So when we avoid triggers, what we're also avoiding is the opportunity to actually heal the wound. So when you can really dig into your own triggers, and believe me, it's not like there's one or two triggers from trauma in your past that come up and you deal with it once and yay, I'm, all good. There's layers to triggers, isn't there? And you never quite know what's going to trigger off. And it's like a domino effect. And it can have really serious consequences. It can be really damaging. So I'm not saying triggers are not damaging and are not to be taken seriously. They very much are, and they're very real. However, what I am suggesting is rather than avoiding them, actually get to know them. Find out where they come from. Where is their power being held? Because you are creating that power. So when we can get to the core of triggers, then we can control our response to triggers in the future, because we will continue to be triggered. The power lies in how you respond to those triggers. So when you truly understand that about yourself, it puts you in a position where you can more easily pick up when you've triggered someone else and know how to, or have a better idea of how to control and behave within that situation when someone else has become triggered. It puts you more in control emotionally and allowing you to support that person with whatever they're being triggered by or what they're going through. And the last thing I want to talk about in regards to this presupposition about having flexibility of behavior is the art of dissociation. Now, I think dissociation gets a bad rap. I've talked about this previously on the podcast, because dissociation is seen as, being detached, being cold, not caring. We see it as not human in a way, robotic, Yet, I want to suggest that, everything has a purpose. And dissociation, when you learn how to use it and what it's for, can be a really powerful tool when you are needing to negotiate an environment or a situation where perhaps you feel out of control. So once you learn dissociation, what it's more about, it's not cutting off your feelings. You can still feel. Dissociation, when you learn to use it, is actually more about not getting caught up emotionally in the content. So imagine, as a coach or a psychologist or a counselor or a carer of some sort, and someone is telling you a story, something about themselves that they want to share. And let's remember, this is their moment. This is their safe space to let go of some stuff. Now, if we as the listener then start crying and having all those empath type feelings and letting them show, because our physiology will change if we start to really feel into their story. Physiology will adapt and reflect that. And so suddenly it's not really about them anymore, is it? You might like to think it is. However, if you are joining in, then you are hijacking their space to be able to feel, speak, react, do everything that they want and maybe need to do in order to let this story or event or whatever it is out. So it's a real great skill. That's good English, isn't it? It's a real great skill. It's an excellent skill to be able to listen and not get caught up in the content that's being told. So when you listen, what you're listening for is the language they're using, taking in their body language. And when you listen to the language, you can tell what parts are really, what are the triggers for them and what's haunting them and where are they stuck and what parts have they let go of. You can learn all of those things from really listening to the structure of the conversation rather than get caught in the story. And that is what dissociation can help with. It allows you to sort of almost step back and allow them their space and listen fully, be present and listen to what they're telling you and the language they're using without getting pulled in to the space and becoming part of the story. So I'm a big fan of dissociation and being able to use it effectively when it serves a good purpose, for me. So yeah, that's presupposition 13, the law of requisite variety. And the last one I'm going to talk about, and then that's presuppositions finished, and we're going to move on to something different in the next episode. What I'm going to finish up on is specifically probably more in, coaching, mentoring, counselling, those sorts of mental health helping fields. Number 14 is all procedures should be designed to increase choice. And I love talking about choice, and I have some unpopular opinions about choice. Sorry, not sorry. For me, empowerment, that's the word I want. Empowerment is recognizing that all choice is dependent upon the meaning you give it. And so when you think you don't have a choice, well, what does each choice mean? Or what is the meaning that you're giving to the choices you have? You hear it so often. It's a throwaway comment now, isn't it? Sorry, I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Unfortunately, the choices that are put before you, none of them may really, sort of line up with the vision that you had, or the desire that you have, or the way that you want things to go. They might all be shitty choices. And so you choose the one that you can put up with, that you can live with the most, and then justify how icky it feels by saying, I didn't have a choice. So when you are looking, even for yourself, when you are working on improving self-development yourself, okay, when you're looking at doing that, everything that you learn and apply to your life will be better served if the intention is to increase your choices in life, to give you a wider scope, what you can do, what you can think, what you're capable of, what direction your life might go in. When you increase choice, you create freedom and self-empowerment, because then you know that you can decide and that you will survive whatever choice you make. It's still your choice. You're in control. Whereas sometimes the methods that we might take when we're talking about self-development, or even just health in general, from my own perspective anyway, from my own journey, sometimes with my own health, and I've decided to do something because I think I didn't have a choice, I did this. For my health, what I have found is that it actually limited what I could do. It put a cage around the label of whatever it was I was making a choice about. I had made the world around that problem actually smaller. And I feel like that is what can lead to that real regret and feeling like you've been trapped. And we've actually done it ourselves by limiting our choices, so to speak, or limiting our abilities. Where if we look for a wider variety of choices, that in itself creates more freedom to, if one way doesn't work, there's 40 others I can have a go at. And that's where you feel empowered. That's where you feel more free. It's that, world is my oyster kind of thinking. There's no limits. So it doesn't factor in as much, because your thinking isn't limiting. Your thinking has gone and switched the other way. It's now limitless when you create more choices for yourself. So that's what I wanted to talk about there, about controlling your path by increasing the choices. So I'm going to leave that there. I trust this has been helpful, or given you some information, some food for thought. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and anything you want to add to that. Of course, if you have any questions that you want to pose, please feel free to post it or comment on it. Please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Talk Train and Automatic Mouth, and follow us and see what we're up to. Hopefully Adam will be back with me in the next episode, and what we're going to talk about is overthinking. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys, take care. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time.